welcome to the Jeremy Mullins podcast. I am Jeremy, your host. I'm here today with Mr. Tony Schmidt, is it CEO, owner, man of the hour?
Little of both, I guess. CEO, um, part owner, have my business partners and shareholders and
Yeah.
co-founders.
Well, I went
I've
to
got
say CEO. I went to say CEO, and I'm like, is that even his title? Right? Like, I don't know. But Mr. Tony Schmidt from Green Up Wealth, one of our partners here on the podcast, and welcome back, brother.
Jeremy, great to be back, and we are rolling into 26, my friend.
Yeah. I know we have my to-do list every day, has 8 things on it. Or not my to-do list, I'm sorry. My win list has 8 things on it that I focus on. And, one of those is financial, right? A
Yeah,
lot of times I've gotten asked, and you probably get asked, too, on this, like, why are you guys partners in wellness when you're in the financial space and I'm in the fitness space? We tell
yeah,
people all the time, like, hey, it's all in one, right? So this year,
sure.
my 8 categories is mental, sleep, nutrition, physical, spiritual, financial, career, and family. And
Yeah,
every single day, for me to win the day, I have to do at least one thing in these 8 categories, but sometimes there's specific ones that I have to do multiple, right? So we talked about this on our last time we were on together, doing 75 hard, your company,
yeah,
um, us here at the beginning of the year. Well, okay, mental, my 10 pages are on there and my progress photos are on there, right? So it means
yeah.
there's 2 things I have to do to complete 75 hard, and those tasks, but these are the 8 things that every day I focus on. And one of the things financial that I want to kind of just touch on a little bit before we do updates, today, and not that they change every year, but a lot of years there are some changes in what we can contribute to our IRAs, our Roth, like just our retirement. And I wanted you today just kind of hit on that highlight, because like I've seen people and I've done this in the past. You just miss it, and I was like, well, it was only $500 or it was only $1,000, but like if you miss it every time, that compounding interest is going to make
Sure.
a big difference. So what are some of those changes that we had this year? What adjusted? What do people need to look at and pay attention to?
Yeah, Jeremy, I'm glad to share it. And to your point, the power of compounding, it's like taking a snowball and rolling it down the mountain, right? As that thing continues to roll down, it gets big and big over time. And for investors, time is your most powerful tool that you have. Don't let anybody talk to you about that returns or whether it's mutual funds or individual stocks. That is the most powerful thing. The most powerful thing at your fingertips is time. And so missing some of these changes can make, although it seems minor, can make massive impact down the road. And like you mentioned earlier, it's not every single year that these limits change, although a lot of them changed. If you look at contribution limits, they changed. If you looked at catch-up contributions, they changed. But the super catch-up did not change. So again, it's just not peanut butter as much as you and I both love peanut butter. It's not peanut butter spread evenly. And really, these changes were, in theory, are built to offset inflation and really to deal with some of the provisions in the Secure Act 2.0. So I'm going to start with employee contributions. So these are contributions that we as employees can make to our employer sponsored plans. So this would be your 401k, maybe it's your 403b, 457 or TSP, depending on what type of employer you have. And you can now increase your contributions by $1,000 a year. Okay. And that rolls straight into a traditional or Roth IRA. And I would definitely talk with your financial advisor and or tax person to make sure that you are eligible for these types of contributions and that it makes sense for your overall financial plan, I guess is a more accurate way to say. Um, but you can now contribute an extra $500. So that number goes from 7,000 to 7,500 in 2026 as well. So those are the baseline contributions, and we can get into the catch ups in just a moment.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is an age thing now. I'm getting kind of excited about the catch-ups as I'm getting closer to those categories, you know.
Well, the catch up number is peaking right around the corner at this guy, that's for sure. Although, I don't know. Personally, and I'm sure this is ego, not logic driving it, I'm happy to stay under the catch up at least for one more year. Just
Yeah, no, I got you. I'm just around the a few more corners behind that. But that was one thing that I did notice. Like, and I guess it's something like I probably read in the past, but you just don't, once again with experience and thought processes. Like I'm like, oh, it's way down the road. But now I'm eyeing that and been like, all right, at age 50, that's another time I can put a little bit more away. I can stash a little bit more away. And even looking at some of the super catch ups, going up into 60, 63, like, and that fits, as the listeners know, like, Bridget, I'll be 60 when she graduates. And then I think I need to be 60. I want to say it's 62 is when I'll finish up military because I commissioned in late. So that's where I've always like, kind of in that game plan, like, well, when do I retire? 60, 65. But I'm really leaning towards that into the 63 year just because of some of these catch ups that I should be able to do.
well, I think there's a lot of moving parts there, Jeremy, as we talk, within your financial planning, as you have multiple potential revenue streams coming in. But we're also trying to figure out exactly, what will be happening with healthcare at that point and things of that nature. So we want to have a plan, but there's, some variables out there that are definitely going to impact us for sure.
100%. And you mentioned it, but what are the highlights for the catch ups?
Yeah, the catch-ups have gone up as well. So for your traditional and Roth IRA, they are up to 1,100 bucks from 1,000. So you can put in, about 8,600 with that catch-up now. And then looking at your 401k, 403b, 457, and TSP, I think I caught them all in there.
Yeah.
Employer-sponsored plans. Um, you can put in 8,000 and that's up from 7,500. So, or excuse me, you can add 8,000 up from 7,500. So for a total of 32,500 with your catch up. So building that into your plan, building that into your budget. Again, being able to add that compounding is absolutely massive. And why is the government doing this? Because we're a nation ultimately that's behind on retirement savings. So opening those doors is something that as a nation we need.
Yeah. And I forget what it was. I was seeing, and once again, I don't know the validity behind it because it was a social media link and I didn't click on it. But it just talked about like some of the average retirements for ages, and it was lower than what I expected.
Mhm.
So good or bad. I mean, it might be good to you as a listener to see that you're a little further along than what you think. But then, like you said, Tony, like maybe bad for the U.S. in general that we're behind. But nor here nor there. But I wanted to touch on that, especially when you're on. I always want to bring and educate a little bit on financial, and just for the simple reminder to the listener, like, yes, a lot of the stuff that I do is more exercise and nutrition based,
Yeah.
but like financial wellness is important. And we talked about, with I think it was our very first podcast of this season, doing that vision board. You know, I think you have to have both to truly enjoy quote retirement, right? You got to have your health and you got to have financial freedom, and that's when you can really enjoy that time period of your life.
Well, and Jeremy, you mentioned it. You can compare yourself to your neighbor, your brother, your sister, your colleague at work. But you know what they say, comparison's a thief of joy, right? And I think there's some areas in life where comparison can be helpful. But and I just listened to a great podcast with Ed Milet, where he addressed comparison as well. And if people enjoy Ed, it was a great listen. But everyone's financial picture is different. One person might need one person might have $10 million, the other person might have $5 million, the other person might have $1 million, person might have $700,000. Which one is in the best shape? It all depends because it depends on your expenses, depends on your other revenue sources and income sources coming in today and in retirement. It depends on a multitude of factors. So, there's the adage I just mentioned, comparison's a thief of joy. However, in financial planning and wealth management, comparison can be just detrimental and flat out wrong and crippling because someone else's situation doesn't matter how much you have. It's all relative to your spending and your debt and things of that nature. So that's why it is crucial to work with a financial planner. We at GreenUp, I believe, have 7 certified financial planners on staff, 2 chartered financial analysts, and financial planning is the foundation of everything we do. So I do recommend all the listeners on Team Alpha and all the listeners of the Jeremy Mullins podcast find a financial planner first. It's just like the nutrition journey, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to just start this nutrition journey without working with someone like Jeremy on having a plan as your foundation first.
I love it. Now let's talk about comparison in contrast, running into how our 75 hard journey is going.
Yeah.
And you and I talked a little nutrition this week, and I had the team call with your employees today, and most of them were excited. And we talked about some pros and we talked about some cons, but overall, it's doing good. I do want to lead with I've had a lot of people on the First Form app, that join in also, and I don't know because the way we use our tags inside of the app, I'll tag someone that they're doing 75 hard, but I would say it's 90% accurate because I could have some tags on there from people in the past that maybe they don't message anymore, and I didn't remove it, or I may miss some people. So, but I think there was around 250 people right now on the app that's doing 75 hard,
Yeah,
which is
that's
awesome
awesome.
to see. Once again, I
Yeah,
understand there's a plus or minus there that might be not getting everybody, but it was cool to see, that amount of people jump on.
that's super.
And I've had some people fail already. And here's the conversation I have. I want people to just commit in their mind that they're going to finish a 75 hard stretch this year, right? And what I mean by that is just full commitment of you're going to do this. And if you mess up, it's okay. You're going to get right back on track the next day, right? And it may take the full year to string together 75 days. Or maybe you don't. And that's okay too, because at the end of the year, if you do all these critical tasks, 320 days out of the year, you still are progressing forward, and I would have you reflect, okay, why did we not string together 75 days? But I guarantee if you keep showing up, you're going to string together that 75 days. I mean, it is almost guaranteed. When it's not guaranteed is when people are giving up, and it's small stuff that people are messing up on. It could be progress photos. It could be like forgetting to read. Like it's not the major stuff that in my view that I have to manage and manage and move around, which is the nutrition, right? So that's kind of my message to anyone that's listening that's maybe failed is like, hey, get right back on, get right back on track. And whether you're doing 75 hard or you're just working your wellness program, here are some things I would encourage. Number one, don't lose 2 days in a row. Okay. We're going to lose some days. You're going to have some days that, no matter what your critical tasks that you have down, I got my 8 things every single day. I'm going to lose some days this year. I haven't lost any yet, right? I'm on a good streak, but there's going to be days I lose. I understand that. But I made the commitment myself not to lose 2 days in a row. Okay. And then I've also made the commitment myself don't go 0 for 8. Don't go 0 for 8. And what I mean by that is my 8 things on here, I will not have a day that I don't do something out of these categories, right? And that's what I want people to understand because I think, Tony, what happens is, people are going well. Let's just use diet, for example, and they're 21 days in, they haven't messed up. And all of a sudden, like they have pizza because that was all available at a luncheon. And then it just wrecks them mentally it wrecks them,
Yeah, yeah,
and they end up having, okay, well, I had the 2 pieces of pizza, I've already failed, and then they go ahead and have 3 more pieces of pizza and the bag of chips, and then they have, they go home and they overeat again because they've already failed the diet. Versus if you just had the 2 pieces of pizza, you probably still landed a decent amount of calories for the day,
yeah, yeah,
right? So instead of having this mindset of like, all right, it's either all or nothing, hey, 80% good is still better than 0%. And so on the days you do lose, don't go 0 for 8, right? Or, 0 for 8 is just my thing, but you get what I'm saying, right? Don't go 0 for 8 and don't miss 2 days in a row. Simple as that.
Well, I think, as we've talked about before, it's progress, not perfection, right? None of us are a finished project, or finished product. No one on the planet is a finished product. That's not how our maker made us. But, and we have to be willing to give ourselves grace. And is it a failure? If you fail 75 hard, you miss one of the critical tasks in a given day, is that failure? I'm going to say maybe. Is it
It's a
failure?
failure of that program, but that's it,
Yeah,
right?
but it's not even a failure of the program if you do what you said. Get back on the horse, right? Draw a line in the sand and say, hey, I know what my mistake was. Here's what I'm going to do. Put a system in place to fix it. And then you're ready to rock from there. And
Yep.
so I think, and that just goes for the bigger picture of life of, I tell my kids on a regular basis, every time I get on a plane, which is more often than I'd like, I send them a text because who knows whether that plane's landing or not. I pray that it does. But I send them a text message and let them know that I'm thinking of them. And within that text, every single time, it's, go out and fail today. Go out and fail, but get back up. It's um, be the best person you can be. Take the difficult path in life because it's always the right one. And I want them to be willing to go into a stretch zone, but get up, dust yourself off, and keep on going. I think 75 hard pulls that in great focus for sure.
100%. And that's where we grow at, right? We grow when we're uncomfortable. So for me right now, I've adjusted my progress photos are easy. I do a shot of megawatt every morning. It's my go-to,
Mhm.
get up and roll caffeine. So what I've done is like in my mind, I have to take my progress photo before I grab the megawatt. So like that's been pretty
Good
easy.
call.
No problem. Get up and do it.
Tying those habits together, right? That's from James
Yeah,
Clear, right? Is tying those together.
because a lot of people say, well, why not when you brush your teeth or why not when you go to the
Yeah,
bathroom like that?
yeah,
Because I travel and that may change up that routine in the
yeah,
morning
yeah,
for me. So, that's going easy. The reading, I didn't really set it. I'm like, oh, I'll get it in. And there were some nights that I'm reading right before bed. And I'm like, that's stressful, right? Because especially if Katie needs to go to bed early, then,
yeah,
I'm having to get out of the bedroom where the light's not on or the light is on. So I've started doing that kind of in the morning too, in my first break. So I'm sitting down, I'm answering messages or I'm doing calls. So I've started in my first break, to go ahead and read, knock that out. Um, and then for me, like, and like a lot of people, you're probably up during the night using the bathroom the first few days, which is normal because
yeah,
most people aren't consuming enough fluid to start with. So I think when people increase their water intake, you're going to avoid a little bit more. But I've also noted for me is now going on 2 weeks. If I get up and I attack that water early, I'm getting a full night's rest now and not having to wake up and pee in the middle of the night. So some of that's adaptation, but I think some of that's I'm a little bit more aggressive with the water during the day.
yeah.
And then the only, and I hate to use the term negative, right? But the only thing that I struggled this Monday and Tuesday with my bike rides. And I don't know if it was travel, that was causing it, or if it was just truly fatigue from 2 workouts a day.
Yeah.
So I have adjusted to every third or fourth day, I do a walk and then mobility work versus 2 walks. Because I think the time on my feet was carrying fatigue into my bike rides. So I did because I do need to work on mobility, especially as middle 40 guy. So I just added that intent, mobility, and stretching, and I can tell you what, I'm feeling much better. The past couple of days since I've been doing that, I've been feeling good. So that's kind of a quick little snapshot for me. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's been a different journey. But my goals, like we talked about, are different this time. It was, there were some lifestyle habits that had crept in that I wanted to change. But it was also bringing some people along with me. And then, there are some other things that I hadn't counted on happening that are unfortunately going on in life. You know, and it's like this just came at a perfect time for me to keep my mind straight as it's going to need to be. So I continue to go back to my purpose on a daily basis. The reading has been great. I'll either do it in the morning, I'll do it at night. Um, I like to do it first thing when I get up. I enjoy that. But there's times I do it at night too because the book I'm reading is great. And here it is, The Art of Resilience. Super great.
Nice.
Kelly Gallagher at First Form. Thank you for passing this on to Leanne. who I think got nominated for an award at your guys' awards deal this past week, which is super
Awesome.
cool. Kelly, congrats. Um, but the reading has been great. This guy's swimming around Great Britain. Wild. Yeah, super cool. You'll love it. Um, the water, the water was a struggle last time. This time by 1 o'clock, I'm at 75 ounces. By about 3 o'clock, I'm at 100 ounces. And then I'm nursing it after my second workout in the evening along with dinner. So the water's been good, but it's because I got into a good early habit with that
Yeah.
as well. Um, the nutrition has been on point. I mean, heck, you can see it now. Am I seeing the results in the weight that I want? No, and that is what that was the driver of a text to you yesterday. Like,
Yeah.
hey, is all this right? I should be losing weight, and we're working on that. But the workouts have been a challenge, and been really a challenge of say me versus me versus vanity, me versus reality, and a punishment for what was the year of 2025. I'd say, I got on the bench for chest on the first time, and I'm like, this isn't moving, this isn't good. Drop some weight off, this isn't good. And so, when you're off 40 pounds off what you were repping on bench, there's a bit of humility that comes with it and just the endurance on the muscle and just the overall muscle memory. Um, and then just kind of, I think, enjoying it again. When you come in and you're terrible at it, you're like, oh, this sucks.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying earlier. We can't compare to
Yeah,
others or
yeah,
even our past, right?
yeah,
So you can't go out and run,
yeah,
a 3 mile run and look at it and be like, man, I'm 4 minutes per mile slower than I was at my peak. Like you can't
yeah,
do that, or you're just going to beat yourself down. Or same thing with the weights.
yeah,
But it's like I said, just being like, okay, this is where I'm at, and I need to progress from here.
yeah,
That thought process, as simple as it sounds, needs to be there. And you can say that's in the financial world because you mentioned this earlier. Time is your biggest asset.
yeah,
But it doesn't mean just because you're a little bit older and you're just now getting started in your financial journey, you can't look
yeah,
at it and be like, well, I'm late to the game, so not
100%.
going to worry about it.
100%. No, that's exactly right. And I keep reminding myself, hey, listen, okay, you're 10, now 11 days in. Well, tonight when I finish everything, I'll be 11 days in. Uh, but at the end of the day, like it's gonna take time. And if I look at the outdoor workout side of things, I've been doing rucks in the morning with the 20-pound vest. However, on Sunday, I start to add in running, and I'm going to do some interval running before I go into a little bit longer runs. But I wanted to have a couple weeks built up before I started running and was certain to injure myself. So that is, I have a plan, but I'm also, whether I like where I'm at or not, I'm being patient, I'm being disciplined, and I'm trusting in the process that it's going to get me where I need to go, even though I don't necessarily like it.
Yeah. Well,
That's been the biggest challenge.
and I want to touch on just a little bit of education, on what you mentioned. Your numbers have been point on. We haven't seen, a big jump in the scale, lowering the scale, not a jump in the scale, but we just haven't seen it. This is very common, especially in new wellness programs as we're getting back into it, right? So not only 75 hard, but just getting back into it
Yeah.
from former athletes slash former people who have trained before. Okay, because what happens is, like you mentioned, okay, 2025 not a good year physically for Tony, right? Like we can put that out there,
Facts.
so yeah. But you come from an athletic background. You come from, hey, I did some fitness stuff in the past couple of years as an adult. So you're able to handle the 2 workouts a day,
Yeah.
right? But remember, a couple workouts a day. I talked about this early. Me struggling a little bit early this week, and my mountain biking like power output wasn't there. Heart rate was higher than it should be for the effort. Like that was fatigue that I was pulling into those bike rides,
Yeah.
right? So what happens is a lot of times we are inflamed. We have inflammation in our muscle cells from these workouts. And when you're doing 2 workouts a day, not doing a full recovery, that's
Mhm.
where you could carry that inflammation a little bit longer than what you
Yeah.
should. Now, the great thing about it is we as humans learn to adapt.
Mhm.
We learn to adapt, and our body will adapt.
Yeah.
So for you, we didn't make any changes because I think what we'll see is this week or next week you'll see a good drop in the scale, your inflammation will lower in general because the body will be like, well, he's going to keep walking every day. He's going to keep doing rucking every day.
Yeah.
Or in my case, I just decreased that walking a little bit, added in the mobility, which, once again, benefits me, but also took a little bit of time off my feet a couple times a week. And hopefully, as I get back into my structured bike riding tomorrow and the next day, I'll see that performance, come back up.
Well, the nice part is the soreness is gone. And so when the soreness is gone, I think, you feel a little more confident as you're doing things as well. Having gone through this process before, um, understanding the macros and giving it time and understanding inflammation and things of that nature. And as for a multitude of reasons, the sleep just isn't there. And I'm sure that's factoring in too. And so I think, for anyone listening, if you are um, one of Jeremy's Team Alpha members that are going through his coaching, make sure, I highly encourage you to reach out. It's going to help physically, it's going to help mentally. For those of you that might be listening that aren't, I would say download the First Form app, pull Jeremy as your trusted coach, and he can help you or any of the First Form coaches that you're working with as well, Monte or whomever. They're going to be able to help you through this. And it's just like having a financial planner or a wealth advisor, just having that extra voice, helping keep you disciplined to the plan is so crucial.
It's funny you say that, like sleep, and that's why I like the power of journaling. Because every day now, like I was at 60. So the thing I document on sleep was I was at 63% recovery today, and I was at 7 hours and 51 minutes of sleep. So that's actually of sleep. So that's a great night. That wasn't time in bed. That was actually sleep. So wonderful sleep last night. I took my magnesium. I take my peptides at night. So those are the things I'm looking at sleep is like, I got to take my magnesium, my creatine, I got to take my peptides, and then I record, the next day, how much sleep and where it's at. But it's just cool, like looking back, because, yesterday, last night or the night before was only 5 hours and 40 minutes.
Wow.
So you saw what I did there was I compensated back. Versus
Yeah.
if I wasn't paying attention to, I wasn't journaling it, I probably went maybe another night with not getting almost 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how like cool I think it is just to pay attention to it and treat each day as a competition.
Yeah.
Treat each day as like, once again, I am going to win today. That's what I'm focused on. I'm not focused on tomorrow. I'm focused on today, winning today. And so far today, I haven't read my pages yet. So I've took my progress photos, on schedule with my water, on schedule with my food. I've already did my walk. After we finish here, I'm going to go to the gym because it's cold down here in Florida today. I'm not going to ride outside.
Yeah. Cold.
Um, they can't actually canceled mountain bike practice for Brady, and I normally ride with them. So going to go to the
Okay.
gym instead. Um, for financial, I did my TSP planning. So I went into my Army account, my TSP, and I increased the up, the
Good.
percentage up that I could.
Yeah.
So you'll be proud of me, right, client? I'm doing the right thing, sir.
I'm proud. Pat on the back. Way to go,
Yeah.
partner.
Spiritual. Listen to some Christian music this morning. I've made that change. Usually, I'm a country music person in the morning, kind of just get my mind right. I like listening to music. So spiritually, I've kind of changed that to some Christian music in the morning.
Great.
I'll still look to get my prayer in today, and then for career, and a lot of times this career and financial, I guess, could go hand in hand.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
one thing could fit both.
Yeah.
But we have knocked out 3 podcasts today. So
Yeah.
once again, I put that under career as podcast because you and I don't do one every week.
Sure.
And then for family, since I work from home, I did the laundry and I cleaned the floors today in my
Nice.
in my breaks. So just taking that
Yeah.
mental break, physical break from setting at my desk. I got up and knocked some stuff out, while having lunch and that type of stuff. So once again, just got to wrap up the day. A few things I got to finish. Got to land my calories, my macros with dinner. Got to finish my water, get that workout in, and then once again, that's a win, right? Nothing major, right? My our podcasts. It's not like we got to edit them. We got to put them out there. So instantly, you don't see anything in your career bump forward, right?
Yeah.
From that financially, my TSV planning, nothing really changes. All I did was went in and click a button, but I don't get a direct feedback that day. So I think that's a message to remember too. Is a lot of the stuff that we do day in and day out, you may not see results right away from it. Right? You don't get the win that day unless you're writing it down and you've managed your left and right boundaries to what you consider a win. Okay. And I think that's important because a lot of people, they're fighting for that promotion or they're fighting for that bonus. And you don't know if you're really winning until it happens. But if you journal and you've got your left and right boundaries of what you consider a win, I can look at this in the day and be like, 15 days in, 15 wins.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to that which gets written gets done, right? And I think that's why it's crucial to write things down. Um, I know a lot of the younger generation can do it on their computer, things of that nature. I like to have it out in front of me so it's right there. I can't, yeah, I can't get away from it. It is, and mine's right here next to me, and it's right there, and it's going to punch me in the face 12 times over. So and with 75 hard, it's why I use the app because I don't want to see Andy's face sitting there scowling at me if I forget. No, but it is a good reminder just to be able to check all those off. And I think the power of checking things off a list is just giving you it's giving you such a good feeling mentally, emotionally, that you're chopping wood and knocking things off your list. And I think it's crucial to actually physically mark things off a list that they're done so that you know that you're accomplishing things.
Well, I just took a note of that, and that Tony will be a podcast we'll do in the future, because I've read that before, and what happens from a mental standpoint, psychologically when you
Yeah.
write things down, you mark it off a list. So I
Yeah.
think we actually we'll look at the data and bring that to the
Yeah.
listener
That'd be fun.
on a podcast because that's the reason I like it. I
Yeah.
I notice a big difference in me checking something off on the computer, versus doing it on a hard copy, and a hard copy
Yeah.
works so much better for me.
And
So
the one thing I would say is if I go back to one of my great friends and mentors, Kenny Montgomery, who I think I've mentioned Monty on here before, the one thing with Mont is he was a big believer, eat your peas early, because if you have that thing, and my love of peas, so that hits so true to me. If you have that thing that you don't want to do, if you wait till the end of the day and you procrastinate it, that load is going to feel really, really heavy and it's going to make everything miserable. You're probably going to underperform the rest of the day because you're going to have that feeling detracting from your full potential throughout the day. So eat your peas, get it done, and move on to the good stuff.
I love it. I was actually going to have you end it with a quote or a tip, but I like that as wrapping it up. Eat your peas.
Eat your peas. I'm going to give credit to TMM, the Mott Man, Kenny Montgomery.
Awesome. Tony, as always, I appreciate it. I look forward to continuing documenting the journey of 75 hard, good or bad. Hey, if we mess up, we're just going to have to document this journey a little longer than 75 days.
That's true.
Um,
It's getting done.
what it's so funny. I was talking to your team today, and like some of them are having it marking on a calendar. I'm like, I was like, guys, I don't even know what day it is. I was like, because all I know is we're ending on my son's birthday, so March 20th,
Oh, there you go.
right? So in
Yep.
my mind, it's like I don't
Yep.
care what day it is.
Doesn't
I'm focused
matter.
on one
Yeah.
day, and I know where the end date is.
So,
So we all have a different mind approach to it, but what's cool is once again seeing roughly these 250, 300 people, that's in my inner quote circle community right now getting better. And that's the whole
love
goal.
it.
So
That's cool. It's real cool.
awesome,
Awesome.
man. I appreciate you and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Jeremy. Back at you. Take care, bud.